Liffe's Lesser Weasel. This is being recorded March 12th, 2019. The occurrence was spring session outdoor school 1976. It took place at Camp Howard Outdoor School on the animal study plot. Involved in this, number one, was Liffe, a girl junior counselor that was a junior in high school. She was just a little shy of 6 feet. She was very slim, borderline on skinny. She dressed like most girl junior counselors did, with a heavy shirt, sweater on, and a heavy coat, and jeans. The style at the time was bell bottom. Everyone that wore jeans had bell bottoms. I didn't, but they did. Liffe's bell bottoms were very long, and they were very, very belled out, very wide. Along with Liffe on the study plot that day was Rhoda, the resource specialist, also known as Rhoda Landells. She ran the animal study program. She'd been around a long time. She was in her late 50s, early 60s. She'd done a lot outdoors. I was there, known as Cletus. Real name, of course, was Jack Lynch. I was a senior counselor to assist Rhoda. Then there was a teacher and that teacher's classroom of children, students, 6th grade students. Maybe 25 of them, maybe 27 of them, somewhere around there. Junior counselors that could be trusted and that were liked and everything else had certain tasks assigned to them. Liffe's task was to take care of the traps, have-a-heart type traps, some homemade have-a-hearts as well. She'd gather up the animals and put them into cages for viewing and feeding. And the animals typically get kept for a few days, then turned loose. And it was Liffe's job. You catch the animal, you're the one that turns it loose. So she had the job at the end of the day to set animals free. Rhoda would talk about the animal, set it free, and see where it goes. It was just a nice end point. Liffe'd gotten fortunate in having a trap that caught a lesser weasel. A lesser weasel looks just like a regular full-size weasel in just about all aspects except size. This weasel was about the size of if you took two big fat mice, put them together, one in front of the other. It was about, body size was about that big around and about that long, with a tail that was maybe a couple inches long. The lesser weasel's head looked just like a regular weasel, but it was on a smaller scale. He had that determined look in his eye. He had those very sharp teeth that he was more than happy to use on anything that got near him. Very aggressive. And for the size, pretty strong. He'd eaten everything that had been put in his cage. He did a little extracurricular there the night before. He was in a cage in the animal study plot cabin. Next to that cage was another one that had an old mouse in it. They were sort of side by side. We didn't have any worry that one would get the other or anything like that. This old mouse got stupid and walked right to the next to his cage, the very outside edge of it there, and that lesser weasel reached through, grabbed that mouse by the head, pulled him through, got him halfway through into the lesser weasel's cage there, and proceeded to eat his head like it was a piece of watermelon. In a minute's time, he had most of that mouse consumed. It was amazing to see. It was his turn to be turned loose the next day. So at the end of the day, all the students and their teacher and JCs and myself were gathered. Rhoda had one last thing to talk about. It included the lesser weasel. She called Liffe to bring the weasel, bring the cage out, and set it free. And Liffe was so proud. She was the one that was doing it. She was going to handle it. She was going to be the center of attention on this. And she was. The cage was set down very carefully. The front door to that cage was unhooked, unlatched, and she swung it open very slowly. She didn't want to startle it. He wanted it to get up and walk out and walk away. It got a little flustered, and it didn't walk away. It turned around and came back, went up Liffe's leg, up the bell bottom. Before she knew it, it was darn near her knee. She grabbed just below the knee, and that was too late. He'd already snuck through. He was up to the thigh, and she grabbed above the thigh. She had this look on her face like something bad was going to happen. And it was moving quickly. By the time she finally got it stopped, she was reaching around the highest point in her leg. Had that lesser weasel gone a little bit further, it probably would have tickled her in a place that was forbidden. There she stood. Everyone's watching with their mouths hanging open. The drama was high. And Liffe was there just squeezing as hard as she could, and her eyes were just bugged out. Wasn't anything anyone could do. It was up to her. She hung on. The weasel, I guess, realized he wasn't going to get any further with her and slowly started to drop himself out of the leg. And there she was when the weasel was about down to her knees, started shaking the leg. You'd think the weasel just come dropping out, but he didn't. He lowered himself out his own sweet time. He got on the ground. I thought he'd run. No. He got on, took one look. It was a defiant kind of a thing. Just ambled away, crossed the road, into the woods, and that was it. The look on Livy's face went from being absolutely scared to absolutely embarrassed. Bright red. Turned around, hide the face. Nobody laughed. Nobody said a word. It was full entertainment, and it wasn't going to be spoiled by a bit of humor.